Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Sometimes it's either feast or famine. Sometimes I have no idea what to make a video about, so I don't. And other times, I have so many topics rolling around in my head that I just kind of had to jot them all down. And maybe I'll get to them, and maybe I won't. Hopefully I do. And of course, I have the hubris to imagine that somebody might want to actually listen to them. Anyhow, I've had more and more opportunity to actually converse with the people that I've gotten to know through YouTube. And so Francois and I, JDRD30, were talking. We had a couple of Google Hangout sessions where we just, BS'd and talked about stuff. And one of the things we were talking about is, what made us gravitate towards the systems that we tend to like right now. And so, I'm a guy that's really enjoying the whole Lamentations of the Flame Princess, which is really BXD&D, something like basic fantasy role-playing game. And one of the reasons is I can do it in my sleep. If you woke me up, I know those systems well enough that I don't need a book. I can wing it. And Francois was talking about something like advanced fighting fantasy, and also like D6 Star Wars. Those kind of that system where he can just you can shake him awake, and he can play. He can run a game. And we were also talking about other things that made us gravitate towards those systems, and something like advanced fighting fantasy. And there it is. He turned me on to this. I got a copy. Um, he was telling me it's the idea that what kind of drove him away from something like Dungeons and Dragons when he started gaming more in earnest again was the amount of time it took to level. Because I even had talked about probably a year and a half ago. Time is precious. I'm older. I'm not going to have a lot of time to game, and nor the people that I'm going to play with. They're probably not going to have a lot of time to game either. And so for me, part of the fun isn't just the adventuring or playing the role playing game, but there's a cookie. You get to improve at stuff. You want the cookie, and that's part of the excitement of playing any role-playing system is you get to improve a little bit. And something like Advanced Fighting Fantasy has a great. I'll hold it up again. Advanced Fighting Fantasy. I need to do a review on this, like a real review. But has a great system where every adventure you get about 50 experience points. You could be less or more depending on role playing and all this sort of stuff or whatever. And then you get to spend those points or save them, and you can spend them improving different skills, and improving your attributes is more expensive than improving like a little niche skill, that sort of thing. So that's cool. In something like Lamentations of the Flame Princess, or any OSR D&D variant, it's different. You have a certain amount of experience points. You need to get to the next level, and over time it tends to get more. Now Lamentations probably has the best experience tables I've ever seen. In my opinion. But essentially, I'll use a fighter. Every class, to get from first to second level, you need 2,000 experience points. Then to get to third, you need 4,000. It doubles the whole way up until ninth level. After ninth level, you always need 144, I think, or 128 in the case of the fighter. So at that point, it remains static, how many experience points you really need. But, the older I get and having this constraint of time, I love the system. That's one of the bugs in it. If you're, you don't have a lot of time, how do you fix that? And I made a video years and years ago talking about, awarding experience. And you don't necessarily, I don't like fudging rolls. And watching some of Runeslinger's videos, it reminded me of how much I don't like fudging rolls. I've certainly been guilty of it. But I think if you're going to use any sort of fudge, this is a good place to use fudge, is in experience. And just kind of faking it a little bit. And to me, it's the ideal thing was you sit down with your players and say, well, how fast do you want to level? How many sessions do you think should be, required to level, and then go with that. And I don't think you have to be tied to, well, geez, how much silver or gold did we get this adventure, and let's take out the calculators and mathematically divide up, or how many monsters did we kill? Well, those are certainly part of it. But at this point, I think it's just as easy to say, okay, well, you guys had a good adventure, so it's worth 500 experience points or 1,000, and kind of keep tabs on like where are your players too, like how many, when they're trying to get from 6 to 7, they're going to need several thousand to level up. Probably the only bug you might run into with a system like that is if you've got a guy whose character died, which that happens kind of frequently sometimes, he might be a few levels behind everybody, so he's going to level up a little faster. He was going to level up a little faster anyway, so the worst thing that happens is you throw him all 4,000 experience points for that adventure, and he happens to level. Big deal. Not the end of the world. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking these days. And I talked about it in the past. As you're figuring out everything else that's worth experience and like maybe giving them more experience, one of the things you have to be really careful with, in my opinion, is completing an adventure or completing a mission, because at that point you are railroading the players. You could be playing this big giant sandbox, do what you want. However, if you want the cookie, if you want the experience, if you want to level and become a more powerful guy, well, then you need to complete this mission. So you have to be careful using stuff like that. And all the other usual, like good role play and creativity and being immersed or staying in character, whatever people decide, I think is also a good kicker. But to me at this point, I think it's best practice with us older gamers who are not so chronologically challenged, or just anybody really who doesn't have a lot of time, is just kind of come to some kind of consensus. How many sessions should it take us to level up, and stick to that. And that's one of those conversations that can be dynamic, because if it's not working for you, you talk about it. So that's my take on it. I'm not anti, my favorite game. I like it, but that's probably where a little fudge is a good thing.